Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Let
Yeah,
us
so it
know.
legally has to tell us that it's recording because Zoom, especially like during the early start of the pandemic, a lot of bosses would start like recording Zoom calls inappropriately and using it like negatively against their employees. So because of like American privacy stuff, Zoom now has to yell at you and be like, someone's recording.
Oh my God. Seriously, Zoom always gives me such anxiety. Like, it's nice to be on the broadcasting end because every time I'm like watching a panel, I'm so afraid of like accidentally turning on my camera or unmuting myself or something. And I'm
Yeah,
just like, and then
mood.
they go recording in progress. I'm like, am I doing something wrong?
Right? Like, let me, or when I'm sharing my screen and, because I'm a horrible person, there's like gay sex stuff happening one tab over, and it's like, please tell me that you can only see the one tab. Please tell me that you can see the one tab that's work and not the three tabs that's
Oh,
problematic
God.
fictional men doing problematic fictional things.
Oh. Well, if that happened here, we'd be fine.
Yes. Hello everyone who is here.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, this brings me so much joy.
Yeah. We are super prepared. We're just
Yours
we're like
scrolls back to messages saying we are the least prepared we've ever been.
it's fine. I feel like because this panel captures the essence of the Yaoi Shelf. Okay,
It does.
we're just two old whinging Fujin gremlins who are just like we're doing our best.
We are. We're advanced in age, we're enwizened, we're
It was
matching.
we are matching.
We're matching because we're an old married couple.
Do you know how hard I had to look for this shirt today? I couldn't freaking
I
find it.
also I also had to like search high and low for my shirt because I don't dry all of my clothes in the dryer because it messes up the graphics. So I'll
Mm,
tend to wash things inside out. Do you have any idea how many black t-shirts I own?
same. And exactly, and I had the exact same problem. It was inside out, and I have so many piles sitting around because I don't put my clothes away.
Oh, apparently there are some audio issues.
Yeah. I maybe it's one of those things where you have to do the
Unmute
go
or
to the
whatever.
audio settings.
Yeah.
And I always have that problem with Zoom.
Okay, yeah, I can hear, but when I first joined, I had to click on something. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um
sometimes Zoom is weird. Just every once in a while, Zoom is like incredibly weird. But I mean,
I'm
bless it.
yeah.
My favorite thing right now, though, is that Zoom is like, hey guys, you need to return to office. It's like the literal platform that made it possible to work anywhere. You guys need to be back in our corporate office.
I'm so glad I don't work, in a real in a real job.
Into sentence. I'm so glad I don't work. I'm so glad I don't have a real job.
Yeah, I mean I don't.
You have a job. I don't know why I paused there.
I don't have a job. I don't get paid for it. I I wish I got paid for it.
We get a lovely stipend every quarter.
And we do. We do.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you guys all for being here. CitrusCon, do you guys need to intro us or do we intro ourselves? I'm almost positive we probably intro ourselves.
I'm sure we've gotten
Sorry, there was a minor fire to point out. Yes, I can introduce you guys.
That's fine.
Welcome to the Yaoi Shelf
Woo!
panel.
Oh,
You didn't know Yaoi Shelf is a Yaoi podcast.
yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
So
Well,
self-explanatory. So we got Amanda and Carola with us today. So you guys want
hey,
to
yeah,
individually introduce yourselves?
sure. We'll definitely take it from here. Hello, welcome to the
Hello.
Yaoi Shelf. Grab a seat and relax.
Woo! And good
Uh,
morning.
and good morning, good afternoon. Time is a social construct, just like gender. Um,
Yes.
Today we're here to talk about how BL fanfic has changed. If you have listened to the show in the past, fanfic is something that is very much both in Carola and I's roots. It has been a topic that we have seemingly come back to over and over and over again.
Especially
And
you.
is there something I can do for you?
No.
Over the last few decades.
Oh my God, decades.
Decades.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't want to think about it either. It's not fun to think about. So we're the hosts of the Yaoi Shelf. As mentioned, the Yaoi Shelf is a BL podcast that focuses mostly on like trope analysis, fan culture, screeching about problematic fictional men,
A lot.
a lot,
Brain rot.
brain rot,
So much gravitation.
gravitation, and somehow everything always goes back to Sasunaru.
Because it's the literal greatest love story ever told, and I will take no further questions at this point.
Everything somehow goes back to Sasunaru or me having a dissociative episode connecting the dots of two characters. I actually had that yesterday where I was going over the Keanu Reeves Constantine movie because I've always loved John Constantine as a character, but I love the Keanu Reeves Constantine movie. And I realized I like him so much because he's just Wolfwood from Trigun.
You know, you have a very good point.
He's just Wolfwood.
Oh my God.
And I'm sitting here like, why do I love this Keanu Reeves version so much? Because I love the version that looks like Sting. I love the blonde bitch version, obviously, but I really have a soft spot for that Keanu Reeves movie with way too attractive Tilda Swinton. And it's like, he's just Wolfwood. He's just Nicholas D. Wolfwood.
Why is it that like every time you talk to me about Constantine, I have like a new like, oh, moment?
Because he's great.
Yeah.
Yes, Tilda is so hot in that movie.
Like, no, seriously, I've talked about this on the podcast before. The first time I saw that movie, I didn't know Tilda Swinton. I didn't know.
I didn't
I was like,
either.
I don't know what gender that person is.
Like this is
so
a literal
attracted.
angel. If like the end of the movie said that like they pulled like some supernatural the show stuff and they actually summoned the angel Gabriel, I'd be like, yes, that is correct.
I just want to say that we watched finally. I had some time this week, and we finally watched season 2 of Good Omens. And okay, first of all, I'm not okay. I will never be okay ever again. But also, that is not my Gabriel. I just want to say that. My Gabriel.
Hashtag not my Gabriel.
Hashtag not my Gabriel. My Gabriel is very gender
an androgynous
confusing.
Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton, excuse me. Oh my God.
So this is a good snapshot of what the Yaoi Shelf is. So
yeah, usually we start talking about something and then we just go off the rails.
Yeah, so if you enjoyed that, you will also love the show.
Yeah.
Here's a little bit of information about us. We have both been fans for a very long time.
Such a long time.
Both of us are cosplayers. One of us
Occasionally.
is better than the other.
What? Which one?
I think you're the better cosplayer.
I don't know. I never cosplay. I run. I run. It's not like it's my personal pet project. I am a con organizer in Norway, so I never get to actually cosplay at cons because I'm just staff all the time.
Yes, but
I try.
Yes, but we have both been cosplaying for a long time. We both write. Carola, would you like to talk about your writing career, and I can go into my writing career?
Oh God. I hate it when you do this to me. Okay, no, I'm a writer.
I do it every time.
I'm a writer. I get really weird talking about my writing. I do have my roots in fanfic, but I haven't written fanfic in 7,000 years because I started writing original stories that developed into novels. I'm an indie published novelist. I've published 4 novels and a couple of like online projects. And I now find fanfiction terrifying because I don't know how to write other people's characters anymore. But I truly admire all of the fanfic authors out there. Like, you guys are amazing and I love you guys. But yeah, I write original now, and then I write fanfics of my own characters.
Yes,
sometimes.
you do.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. I'm a cosplayer, convention panelist. I've been a fanfic writer for like 20 years. I actually fairly recently came back to publishing fanfic, which is probably one of the things that really prompted us to start talking about it. I took like a 10-year hiatus. I never stopped writing, I just stopped publishing. And we'll talk about some of the factors into that. I like too many horrible fictional men.
So do I, but I think your box is bigger than mine.
My box is definitely bigger than yours.
I have a thing where I either like the purest, most cinnamon roll character or like the worst mass murderer. There's no in between.
Same. Same.
It's like when we talk about my two favorite characters in Hero Academia, and it's like Bakugo and Tamaki. And that says everything.
Okay, I'm gonna argue that Bakugo is not the worst character.
No, but he's not great, and he's very opposite of Tamaki. Also, this is Sansa, and he's gonna be disrupting the panel.
Sansa. Sansa's our unofficial mascot. We say unofficial because he usually is just here to cause chaos.
Yeah. He likes to be part of everything.
Yes, but we say this because it essentially sets up the fact that we have been doing this for a very long time. And we say that not to sound gatekeepery, not to sound like we're better than anyone, because we're both trash.
Yes.
We say that mostly just to set up. So like if some of our references seem really, really old, that's why. I know definitely as a more modern convention panelist, I'll have that problem sometimes where I'll make a reference to an anime and it's like, I don't know what this is. I mentioned like Cowboy Bebop in a panel a couple of years ago and people didn't know what that was. And I like wanted to leave.
That is actually a war crime.
Right. It's like, excuse you. It's like, no.
Yes, so thank you.
Thank you. So if any of our references seem a little old, that's why. Also, yes.
I try to keep like on top of newer things, but then I'm one of these people who like I just hoard manga and then I binge read when it's complete. So I have a lot of modern series in my library. I just haven't read them.
I have the horrible problem that I will never say I'm watching something modern and then something will reveal itself that I have encyclopedic knowledge of it and then suddenly I'm like outed.
Yes.
Fully the story of me with My Hero Academia. I watched that in silence for so long and then somehow the brain rot oozed out of my mouth and it was outed that it's like, oh, you know way too much about this series that you say that you hate.
And now you never shut up about, Endeavor or Overhaul or our Lord and Savior Dobby, the Crispy Man.
Okay, please think about the three men that you just listed in descending order of horrible. Please think about the three men that you just listed.
That was on purpose. That was on purpose. That was a research
questionable taste. But
it's Amanda in a nutshell.
Just questionable taste. But we've been doing this for a while. We've seen fandoms come, go, rise, fall. Wish that some fandoms would walk off into the ocean.
Yeah.
This is also where we'll apologize that if we ever open up some old fandom wounds, it is not intentional. We had to do it to ourselves.
Yeah.
Ideating this panel was definitely going over some like old fanfic wounds. So we know we don't have to do this, but we'd be bad panelists if we didn't. Let's go over some definitions really fast. That fan works include fanfic, fan art, roleplay, cosplay, AMVs, and fan cams. These are usually creative and transformative, which is why they usually can skirt copyright issues. Fan fiction, of course, being a subsect of all of that, where it is created by fans of a series or creative property. Now, fanfic can exist. Yes, fan games and doujin as well. Definitely don't want to leave those out. We broaden it out to series or creative property because you can write fanfic of anything.
Yeah, and people do.
Yes, and we're going to talk about that because I think especially like in early fandom, we had a pretty narrow idea, especially of what BL fanfic was. It was really just media from Japan, because we didn't even have like media from Korea, China, Thailand at that time. We're talking the
Yeah.
early 2000s. So really we're just talking about anime and manga,
Yep.
and that's it. Like, we really did not consider any other works that
Yeah.
were queer of that nature worthy of fanfic, even though it had always existed.
Yeah, and it's like, and there was also this very clear divide between, you know, like the Western media and
Yes.
the Asian or like the Japanese media, because you had, at least this is the perception I had, that slash, if it was slash fic, it was Western,
Mhm.
and if it was yaoi or you use the X, then it was anime or manga related.
Yes, absolutely. And that divide was a gaping chasm for
I'm
at
being-
least like 10 years.
Yeah, I'm being eaten. He's biting me.
When is he not biting you is my
don't know.
question.
He's so mean.
He's perfect. So with all that in mind, let's go over how BL has changed over the years. And we're going to start this by saying we both love fanfic. Nothing that is said in this panel is meant to demean or to make anyone angry. We're not here to harsh anyone's yums. We analyze, critique, and talk about this stuff because one pot kettle saying, I am also the cringe.
It's like, if we are getting on someone's case about a very specific thing, it's because likely we've done that thing and we are trying to cope with it.
Exactly. So like, if it seems like we're going too harsh on any one thing, it's because we were there and because we care a lot.
Yeah.
So exactly, it's very old school. It's like, it really is like, you know, that old trope of like, oh, if a boy makes fun of a girl, it's because he likes her.
I hate that, but yeah,
I hate it too. Like, that is
not good.
It's not a good trope, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That like, if we do seem like we're really, really harsh on a particular fandom or thing, it's because, you know, we were there and we have a lot to say about it. So we're starting in 2000, which was 23 years ago.
Please, can you not? I don't want.
Which was 23 years ago.
Oh my God.
And immediate off the top of the bat, this is not a comprehensive list. This is very much reflective of our experiences.
Yeah.
Which is a huge part of it. Carola has mentioned she is from Norway, which means her fandom experience is very different than mine. Mm-hmm. I'm an American hailing from the beautiful, awful state of Texas. Beautiful and awful simultaneously.
Oh no.
Quizilla gang.
Oh my God. Yeah, and I think again that is one of those things. We've talked so much about Quizilla on the podcast, and it's like, because Amanda has this like deep rooted fandom experience, and I was like, there were fics on Quizilla. Like I didn't even know that.
You were like, what the fuck is Quizilla? Yeah, I was one
no,
of the
I knew what it was. I just didn't know you could post fic on there. Like,
yeah, I was one of the early smut princes of Quizilla. So like, that was formative to my fandom experience. Like, even like the things you guys are mentioning, again, like, this is not a comprehensive list. This is really based on like what we saw and what we've researched over the time. So like, yeah, fandom found a way.
Yeah,
we're literally everywhere.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, because for the earlier slides here, we are focusing on like top 3 or like 3 example pairings.
Yes.
We did some research. We had some feelers out asking people we knew. And it was so funny because Amanda and I were talking about how we literally existed in the same spaces during the same times and had such vastly different experiences. And then we started getting all of these replies. And while there was some overlap, there were so many different like pairings and ships and franchises in the same time spans, and it was so funny.
Right, and I think it's important to hallmark on that, especially in the early anime fandom days, where really, if you liked one thing, that's where you stayed. So like Zanga was a great example of that, where you could have an entire profile that is dedicated to just one pairing. Quizilla, you could die on a tag that's just one pairing. you know, and we also had a lot of dedicated fan sites. Like I remember like early days, like do you remember like the Full Metal Alchemist fan site that was like not a shrimp and it was all like Edward Elric?
I wasn't even into FMA back then, but I remember that site.
Oh my god, not a shrimp was amazing. And it was
I-
all like Edward Elric fandom stuff. So like we had, and there was a bunch,
Yeah.
of course, like the Envy fan club.
Oh
which-
my god, Envy.
oh, love
I
Envy.
have been simping about Envy since long before I saw the series.
I don't want to talk about how long I've been simping over Envy.
I mean, clearly there's a pattern here of these androgynous, non-gendered characters in me. Like there's a whole
yeah, we started
story
talking
there.
about Tilda Swinton as Gabriel, then we're at Envy.
It's like this is the exact same thing. But I was hanging out at like GeoCities and Angel Fire sites a lot that were dedicated to like one fandom.
Mhm.
And then I started reading fanfic on adult fanfiction. I didn't even start on fanfiction.net. I started on AFF and got kicked off twice because I was underage. And then in 2005 was when I moved into LiveJournal, which is still my favorite thing on this earth, and I miss it every day.
fair and valid. But so my start was Quizilla forums and dedicated fan sites. So like living, breathing, dying one place. So if you were Sasunaru, you had 30 various avenues to express your Sasunaru love. And if you were Naru Sasu, you could get the fuck off the boat.
Yes. Oh my god.
Because order was everything.
Order was everything. And I'm sorry, I still have some preferences. Like there are a lot more ships these days where I'm open to switching, but there are some where I get really, really gatekeepy. Like I'm sorry.
And
it's
that
Sasunaru,
X
people.
needs to be in the right place. If that order isn't right, you just oof.
Oh, Kakairu was such a big representative on my list of like people who replied to my questions. Lots of
Kakashi
Kakairu.
Iruka, I think honestly that was more of my pairing than Sasunaru at first.
Yeah. I ship that too, but as we all know, I cry about Sasunaru on an almost daily basis. So,
but I think bringing up Kakashi Iruka as an important thing that we need to talk about is even though headcanons were these very, very researched things back in the day, we still shipped based off of a vibe because Kakashi and Iruka did not speak to each other.
I'm sure they spoke like once.
But we were convinced that they were a married couple.
I mean, they were raising these children together.
Separately.
Yes. Well, you've never heard of estranged couples before? Like
I know nothing but estranged couples.
They were busy, okay?
Yeah, the divorce arc, just like My Hero Academia, the divorce arc.
Demanding jobs. They never saw each other, but we all knew they were actually married.
Yeah, they would come home to the same apartment and share dinner. You know?
Yeah, and they were, you know, those couples who are never at home at the same time, which is why we never saw them in the same home.
That's
at
what
the same
it
time.
was.
But they actually live together. We all know it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Kakashi is just like a 50s vacuum salesman, just out on a regular day.
Oh my god, can you imagine that he comes home to his estranged husband who's like standing there waiting with a cold dinner, and he goes, you know, typical Kakashi fashion, like, oh, I'm sorry, I got lost on the road of life. Like,
did we just Mad Men Kakashi Iruka?
Yes.
I love us sometimes.
Oh my god, I love that. Can someone write that? I would read the hell out of that. It is time for me to return to Kakairu fanfic, I feel.
Oh my god, yeah, like semi-problematic 50s housewife Iruka.
It's just like drinking gin.
Like, just straight gin martinis. The grossest aspects, like the worst jello mold.
God. Oh my god, this is amazing. Amanda,
this is
dude,
also
fix it.
This is the podcast.
This is why we need such a huge time slot, because it takes us a long time to get
5
anywhere.
hours to land the plane. But if you've ever played Top Gun on the Nintendo, like the NES, it's like landing the plane in Top Gun. That is what this it's
podcast
full,
is like.
It's 100% like James Bond GoldenEye, but like the radical's this big. Sasunaru was definitely king back in those days. Drary, which is Draco and Harry Potter. I know that we're not supposed to talk about Harry Potter anymore, but unfortunately it was very, very popular and very, very formative.
It was a big thing. Do you remember? I mean, I know you do because everyone.
I know
I
you do.
was never. I was never like super into Harry Potter or like ships in Harry Potter. I kind of sort of shipped Drarry, and only after I saw those. Remember those fan arts that were like renders that looked like super realistic? Do you remember those? There was like a whole set, and I was obsessed with those. Like I didn't even care about them really, but then I was like, that yes.
Oh my God. Drarry was, when you talk about brain rot, Drarry was it. What was amazing is, so again, you already start to see this mix of Eastern and Western fandom, but it was still very almost like segregated. Like if you were into Western fandom, that's where you stayed, and you didn't necessarily like anime and manga, or then you got a bunch of polyglots that liked everything, which secretly most of us were. I think it's fascinating that in the early days of fandom, it was like each part of your fandom experience was in a box. So like for me, I've always been into like Western comics, like DC, Marvel, and everything like that. I haven't always been into like Western books, like really Harry Potter and I guess Game of Thrones is like my big ones. And I've also always been into like anime, manga, and video games. But like each of those fandom experiences were like in their own box. For at least 15 years.
Yes.
And it really wasn't until probably in the last 10 that it's been easier to say, I'm a fan of all of this. I am not just an anime and manga fan. I'm not just a fan of Western comics. I am just a fan.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I still largely mostly watch like Asian things. I do have the occasional, like I said, I just watched Good Omens season 2. But I do have some like Western things. And the thing is, like Buffy comes to mind, but the thing is, when I was watching Buffy, I was into Spuffy. Like that's a het ship.
That is a het ship.
And I was obsessed, but I never consumed fic or anything. I was just, obsessing over the episodes. And then
I was in a corner watching Angel.
And I never watched Angel, but then I saw that one interview where Joss Whedon was like, I mean, Spike and Angel spent so much time together. Like, obviously, at some point and I was like, tell me more, sir.
So Spangle was mine.
And I can see that. I'm mad at myself that I missed out on that one. Like, excuse me?
Fuck off with that, saying I can see that for you.
No, I mean, as in, I can see that because I can see why people shipped it. I was just too dumb to notice. Probably because Angel wasn't really in. I started watching in season 4 was when I really started watching Buffy, and Angel wasn't there. So
he was off doing stuff. But it was interesting having to like keep all of those fandom experiences in like these weird little boxes. I mean, it wasn't impossible. Did it for years. And I also, so this is something that I had repressed from my memory for a long time. If you've listened to this show or know anything about me, I have expressed in the past that I had like some weird like squick sometimes about shipping real people, but I totally forgot that during the early 2000s it was incredibly popular to ship especially the emo boy bands together.
Oh, so that one is My Chemical Romance. That's what you're supposed to say.
So like Fall Out Boy, My Chemical Romance, like that was oh my God, when Panic at the Disco came out, like it was so popular to ship these real humans together.
Why are you bringing me into this? Okay, because heavy disclaimer, despite what I look like, which has had a lot of people tell me that I look like someone who listens to My Chemical Romance. I have never listened to My Chemical Romance. I've never been into the emo scene, but I am a Visual K nerd, and Visual K is just a bunch of pretty fucking sluts who are shipping themselves together, and I say that affectionately, okay? The best visual K is either the ones who look like they stepped out of a Baroque painting, or the ones who look like they aren't wearing any clothes at all. Like there's no in between. But yeah, I there was some shipping happening in the Visual K scene as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we definitely we see in the comments, we're like, J-Rock fan, we know.
There he is. See, there he is. We're
Yeah,
not going to
we-
talk about him.
I have read my fair share of Miyavi and Hyde. I know. I know.
I'm just going to say this. I am not going to talk about him. He is my god. We all know it. But Gakuyu, okay, because he was married to that man. Okay, carry on. We're not going to talk about that. God damn it.
We're gonna talk about it later.
What? Because we don't need to release this brand of crazy, Amanda. It's fine.
But that was something that I had like almost repressed in like early fandom. But like that was everywhere. And I repressed it because especially at like 13, 14, was kind of squicked about it. Because it's like these are real people. And even like with Dreary, you mentioned those like really, really realistic images.
Yeah.
What was amazing about Dreary was that we still had like fictional canon representations of them. So like I didn't necessarily have to imagine Daniel Radcliffe or Tom Felton.
Yeah. And I mean, for a while there, that was the thing about those renders, right? Because they were their likeness, like they literally were them. And I think they came out like before the series was even finished. So it was like, that wouldn't fly today, I'll say that, because it was too early in the series and they were too young.
Yeah, that definitely would get you #canceled today. But that was something, and that was like a really, really big early conversation in fandom is, listen, we know fictional characters don't have rights, but humans do.
Yeah. Oh my God. I've had so many moments of like, I was going through it when I was, dabbling in the visual K fandoms like that, because they're real people. And it's like, I know, Dr. Thomas, for everyone obviously knows Dr. Thomas Baudinet. We've had him on the show and he talks a lot about this and how, there are that he as long as you know the limitations and you think critically, there's nothing wrong with real person fanfic, but it's still it feels so, I always feel like I'm overstepping a boundary with it.
Well, and we'll talk about that more because we have to talk about Super Hulock eventually. So,
well, you will, because I know nothing.
Oh, we're going to talk about Super Hulock. I'm ripping that Band-Aid open. So we're going to talk about
trigger warning.
Yeah, trigger warning for impending Super Hulock. We're going all the way back to 2010.
We're still on the first fucking slide. Oh my God. Yes.
So we're going to talk about that. What was popular during this time was, this is where we start getting the start of the citrus scale, which is how we got to Citrus Con, which is why we're both wearing lemon t-shirts. The citrus scale was so formative to so many fans.
The citrus scale is superior to everything.
Yes. So that's where you start getting lemon being a descriptor for intimate sex acts, lime being something that was slightly spicy. And then occasionally people would throw in other citrus fruits that were not agreed upon at all.
Yeah, and the occasional grapefruit. There are some grapefruits in the panel schedule I saw.
There are, and I think it's very, very funny because grapefruit is the biggest fruit that I just think is a weapon. I've never looked at a grapefruit and been like, this is food.
I feel like when we talked about the citrus scale in one of our episodes, because like orange was like for all. And then we had like a moment where it was like, didn't we discuss some people used blood orange? And it's like,
some people did use blood orange.
What is the blood orange? Can someone explain to me where on the scale? Because it's like between the lime and the orange. And I have some questions.
So there was some non-standard fruits. I remember on Quizilla, people would throw around like kumquat a lot, just because it's a fun word and it is a citrus. Blood orange was for violence. Yes.
Yeah.
Blood orange was violence. But it was very, very interesting to see that like we had agreed on these things. And oh boy, we sure did love non-con back in those days, didn't we?
I mean, did we though? Did we really love it? Or was it just that there was so much of it that we sort of had to just like, well, I guess I'm reading this now.
We were non-conned by non-con. It was just everywhere.
Because I've never, yeah.
It was it was especially in the BL space. It was everywhere.
Stockholm non-con. Oh my God.
We were non-con by not. Okay, look.
I'm
Some of us
feeling
are still really
victimized.
into non-con, me included. But
I think I'm more. I'm not, but I am slightly more into dubcon. I will give it that. I prefer things to be nice and consensual, but sometimes.
I think the fic that I work on next, that is not the sequel to the one fic that you don't want me to write.
I do though, but I don't. I have a lot of emotions about this.
Is going to be a dubcon one, and I'm excited because I haven't written dubcon in a while. And then a lot of it also was copying from our fandom elders. I think that's an important thing, is that during this time, many of us were minors in an adult space, which is a conversation.
Hello.
We were the minors in adult spaces. But we hid that we were minors. And Carola and I both talked about this on the show, how far we'd go to mask that we were 12, 13, 14 years old.
I was just so afraid that I would write a stupid comment and that they would think I was dumb and young and like, I just didn't want them to think I was dumb.
Right. So we're over here at like fucking 12, and the character pontificated because we're trying so hard to puff up and show that like we're not children.
I never used that word, but I've
used pontificated and waxed philosophic. Like my early writing was so pretentious because one of those pigeons that's just puffed up like, I'm an adult, don't question me.
That is so unbrand for you, the pigeon.
But like obviously I'm 13 years old and I've never kissed anyone.
And like I saw someone mention in the comment about how long they were 18. Yeah, I've been 18 since I was 12. Like
my original YouTube account has me like in my 40s because I just added on however many years I needed to be an adult.
But yeah, and I just have to throw this out here before I forget it. Like we've talked about this a lot with the whole copying our fandom elders. Like not only were we copying and I guess we'll get to that, the phrasings and like the words and the way that fic were written. But I've talked so much about how, especially for those of us who were international, who weren't native English speakers, like we would copy, the disclaimers and everything because everyone else was doing it. And I've talked so much in panels about how we would have like disclaimer, like I don't own this, blah, blah, blah. And we didn't know about the Anne Rice situation. We just copied our elders, and then we did the whole warning, this contains gay content. And today, if you did that today, it would seem like you think gay content is a bad thing. But back then it was just like we would get hate, so we had to warn people.
We would get flamed if we didn't do that.
Yeah, and we just did that. Like I just remember copying those sentences and being like, warning, gay content, don't flame me, even when I didn't know what a flame was, because that's what everyone was writing.
Right. And I remember on Quizilla having to do a lot of like, I don't own any of these characters all the time. And again, it was something that I saw and that I mimicked and I replicated, because while I was a part of the Anne Rice decided that her vampires were all super straight for some reason.
That is certainly a choice.
Out of all the hills to die on, this is a tangent. I'm sorry, guys. Out of all the hills to die on, because like I could get it when like J.K. Rowling at first was kind of like, oh, don't ship Draco and Harry, but I don't care about J.K. Rowling's rights now. But Anne Rice, come on.
Oh my God. I mean, and it's so funny. I mean, it isn't because it's such a bleak story, but explaining this to kids now, like I'm in this organizer group at the library, and my youngest colleague, she's 15 and she's super into fanfic. And I was like, do you know why they do the disclaimers? And she was like, no. And I had to tell her the story, and she was just like, oh my God, that happened. I was like, yeah, it was a different world.
And I also want to say that fanfic was almost a dirty thing back in those days, that it was not something that outside of your fan space that you were proud of. It wasn't something that you announced to people. It wasn't something that you said that you were proud of. It was just like a dirty, like monastic thing that we did. Like we would sequester ourselves in our cloisters and write our boys kissing fic, publish anonymously, and then like retreat into the night like Batman. Like,
yeah, I'm so glad I discovered the internet, because when I first started writing and reading fanfic, like actually reading, I guess I was online, but I started writing my own fanfic, and and they were horrible. They were Norwegian. They were rocket
Mhm.
shipping. So again, I started in the Straits. It didn't last very long.
I
And
started that too.
I would have my mom read it because I didn't have any other audience. Can you imagine if I hadn't found the internet?
My aunt read my fanfic once, and I had to have the most uncomfortable conversation about why I knew what certain things were. And it was funny because I mentioned a certain like sex act, and I was like 16. And she's like, "What do you know about this?" I don't know anything about it. I read it from someone else. I don't know anything about ball gags at 16.
Oh my God. Amanda comes from a Catholic home, everyone.
Amanda does come from a Catholic home. So I don't know anything about ball gags at 16. So when I wrote bit down on the gag, that was something I stole from someone else.
And you probably didn't even know what it was. You were just like,
It's not a loose idea.
okay, so it wasn't like you didn't know what it was. You just wrote bit down on the gag, and then it's like where this like magical ball gag appeared out of nowhere in your fic because
Okay, I'm not gonna give myself that much credit. It was a set up like sex scene, but like my aunt highlighted out that part because that was the scandalous part, not the fact that I was writing gay porn. That was the scandalous part.
well,
She's
I
like,
mean,
Catholic household.
but I mean, we're just going off on tangent after tangent. But I just recently learned because I am now in Thai BL hell.
Yes, you
Hello,
are.
fellow sufferers, and I just recently learned that in Thailand, even if you are old enough to have sex, you're not legally allowed to do BDSM until you're 20. I learned that from a BL. I am confused.
This sounds like
this makes sense to me.
This sounds like the Texas dildo law. Like, how do you enforce that? Am I gonna have to explain the Texas dildo law?
I mean, I know it, but go
To
on.
realize
like-
I said that very smoothly to people who might not be from Texas.
The
It's the Texas
dildo
dildo law. Texas has an obscenity law that you're not allowed to own more than 6 dildos, 6 being the number. And the thing is, I don't know how you enforce that.
I mean, obviously, there's a police force that's
there's-
going around
it's like
knocking on your
welcome to
door.
Night Vale. Yeah, it's like welcome to Night Vale. Someone kicks down your door, counts up your sex toys. Official
Oh my
Texas dildo checker.
I
is
would watch
not what I
that
want.
show.
I would also.
I would watch that show.
It's like those racist like border security shows where they just like make
Yes.
fun of people that have accents and stuff. Well, they arrest you if you have 7. No one knows. I don't
And
know
it's-
how they even
No,
enforce it.
it's like a Chris Hansen type that just comes to your door. It's like you open your door, it's Chris Hansen and the clergy and everyone just here to
clergy.
inspect your sex
Like it's
toy drawer.
Castlevania. But
Oh,
I think it's
God.
important to say that, like, yeah, like we took and borrowed, and writers still do this.
Yeah.
Writers to this day still are very obvious where their influences are taken from, where their illusions are taken from. This is something that we still do, and it is not said to demonize writers.
No,
I
we did
still
a
do-
whole episode on this recently.
We literally just did. Now, who was producing fanfic at this time? It was at that early time, it was mostly cis women or women that thought they were cis.
Because that's a pipeline. We did an episode on that.
We did do an episode on that. It was women that thought that they were cis, but it was usually like fanfic was the girls' thing to do.
Mm.
While there were male fic writers, of course, especially the boys love fanfic, that was woman's work.
Yeah.
Men did the art, women did the boys kissing.
I feel like the men, I mean the boys I knew who did fanfic, they wrote
Yes.
mostly gen. Like they wrote gen fic.
Yeah,
like,
they wrote, the boys that I knew that wrote fic, it was either gin or just like wish fulfillment. I want to bang the female MC.
yeah, I had a lot of like not a lot of, but I had friends who wrote like they wrote Naruto fic, but it was all ninjaverse and it was all like only about the lore and like they would have their OCs who came in and were stronger than Naruto, and it was all about that. It was never the ships. They were doing the gen.
And it's also important to bring up the not so subtle sexism that comes into that. That when female writers are writing wish fulfillment in boys love spaces, it's considered to be taboo, negative, fujos are terrible, fujin are bad. But when boys write weird wish fulfillment yuri, or their overpowered OC that is Naruto's secret brother or whatever, they're cool and, you know, important, and it's interesting. That sexism exists, and it still persists in a lot of fan spaces, that it is still occasionally considered aberrant and demonized that female writers or those assigned female at birth produce certain fan works in comparison to others. So that went on for years.
Yeah.
Now, again, is this all of the pairings? Of course not.
No.
Other
Honorable mention to the Bleach pairings that were also rampant in this time.
I didn't start seeing Bleach pairings until like the next slide time era, but we were definitely getting there with Ichigo and Uryu.
And BRN. Love of my life, BRN.
You're entitled to your incorrect opinion.
Listen, it wasn't just me. A lot of the people who did my survey also said BRN. I'm just putting that out there.
Everyone is entitled to their incorrect opinion.
Oh my God. Someone in the comments back me up.
No one in the comments back her up.
Listen. Welcome to the Yaoi Shelf.
Welcome to the Yaoi Shelf.
Are we both gonna survive this panel? No one knows.
No one knows. Someone mentioned this actually in the Black Fujin meetup group, which love that for CitrusCon. Do you remember 5+1s?
Yes, but aren't they big again now?
5+1s are so big now.
Yeah, because I keep seeing them.
5+1s, of course, being like 5 times something happened and 1 time it didn't.
Yeah.
I've totally forgotten 5+1s, but yeah, like
me
they're
too. And now they're here, and I'm enjoying it.
And that cyclical nature of fandom is something we're going to talk about when we get to the present. So you want to move on to 2006?
I think we should, because we've already spent so much time on this slide.
Welcome to 2005 and 2010. God damn, what were any of us doing?
This apparently, I was having a blast. I do realize Shizaya is like late. It's like 2009, but it belongs.
It's real late, but it was everywhere.
Oh my God.
Also, how dare you bring up our old ship war?
Because I didn't mean to, but it was just because we were going to try to. We were trying to stick to like 3 pairings, and I couldn't pick. If I wrote Yuram, you would have my head. So I figured I would just put the whole, because everyone was arguing about who you should ship in.
So KKM, of course, being Kyokata Mao, one of the best BLs that wasn't a BL. And I think it's not officially a BL.
I know, but I just don't.
It's not officially a BL.
I don't see how it is.
You also don't acknowledge that Naruto ended with him getting married to a woman.
Because didn't. Because it ended in chapter 698 when they were holding hands. And it wasn't just a cheap ploy for them to sell more manga, okay? Listen, there is only one true pairing in Naruto, and I will not take any further questions.
So Kyokata Mao.
Twitter. I will.
So Kyokata Mao had a very, very infamous ship war where there is an obvious correct answer.
And yes.
And a deviant answer that no one likes.
There is a correct answer, Amanda.
Which is Conrad and Yuri.
Because Conrad is the home-wrecking whore who's trying to steal his brother's fucking fiance, and that is not okay.
Doesn't deserve him.
Yes, it does.
No,
actually, Wolfram deserves better. Let's be honest.
Okay, you know what? I'll accept that. Wolfram does deserve better than Yuri.
Because he's trying so hard, and Yuri's just like, I don't understand. Like, he's over there planning your wedding with your mom. Like, can you be more involved? Maybe. I have a lot of feelings about this. I don't know if anyone's noticed. I have my girlfriends in the corner over here. She's like sitting here just nodding. She agrees.
These kinds of ship wars were big. And one thing I've always loved about old Fujin culture is that, Carola, what is it?
It's naval combat.
It is naval fucking combat.
Yes. And
Cannons protect ships. You use ships as weapons. It was all combat, but it was respectful.
does this look respectful to
No,
you?
we're gonna fight in an alley. This is not respectful. We're gonna fight in an alley later.
It's respectful as long as it's not the two of us, because we have some we have some disagreements.
I mean, at least it's not the gravitation disagreements.
Listen, we'll deal with that tomorrow.
Tomorrow we'll deal with that. But these kind of ship wars were super, super common. I think this is where you start getting some of the more interesting aspects of fandom, where it was okay to start bringing up different kinds of pairings within the same fandom. So it wasn't just dreary. You could also put Harry with Ron if you had bad tastes. It wasn't
You're so judging.
Yes, I am. It wasn't just, Sasunaru. You could also put Naruto with Gaara if you had very questionable taste.
I mean, I think Naruga is cute, but obviously there's only one
It's
true.
just so angsty.
But I think that you have such a great point there, because this was also when I started expanding my horizons. So with things like Durarara and also Naruto, like I would have multiple ships within the same series. So especially Naruto, like the Akatsuki, like I mean, Kisaita is my jam, but if you want to, do some Itade, like Sasude, Kisaita Day, I'm here for it, okay? Why are you looking at me like that?
Just waves the banner of Uchiha Sest in the background.
Well, that too. But I mean, the thing is, and we've talked about this, Uchiha Sest was a legit thing because they were all inbreeding.
They were. It was just canon.
Yeah, so
I
don't know.
I love everyone talking about shipping manifestos. I love shipping manifestos. I wish we did those again. I would love to see shipping manifestos come back.
I think you should do like a shipping manifesto 101 panel or something.
I would love to do let us know in the comments if you would like us to do a shipping manifesto 101, because I love shipping manifestos. I'd love to see those come back. I think it's one of those early parts of fandom that went to the wayside and is
because
just,
I never did those. Like I know what they are. I was just never part of it.
I did them constantly because you get that multi-shipper stuff. So like, I'm going to go ahead and jump the gun. We're going to talk about gravitation very, very briefly. I did not ship the main pairing in gravitation.
Because you're wrong.
Because I'm a man of class.
I have a whole panel coming up about this tomorrow.
She does, and she's really, really good. But because I shipped other pairings with that, usually Suichi and Hiro, or keeping Eri as just someone who was still very, very in love with Kitazawa, I had to rationalize that a lot. And I did that a lot with shipping manifestos by saying, in this page on this line, Eri says this, which is why it supports that. So
this
when
makes
Carola,
me realize that I did in fact have shipping manifestos, but they were in my head and me yelling at people in my life.
Yes.
For them to understand me.
So when Carola and I have these conversations, like when we did our whole gravitation episode, it wasn't just, I'm going to dox you because I don't believe what you believe. It was, here are all the things that I believe and where I found my research for it.
Yeah.
And we can disagree, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Because that's the beauty of reading fiction, is that we can have different ideas about things. Exactly. And same, I am a double major in English and communications because my rooting is in this research and having to pull information. When I started cosplaying, I cosplayed almost exclusively in character, which meant that I had to have a mastery of understanding this character and this motivations. So that meant having to be very, very deeply rooted in research. It wasn't just a vibe. It was never just, oh, I feel like donning this persona and I've never seen them before.
Yeah.
God, there were so many AUs. So
many AUs. I love AUs. It depends. It depends on the fandom, but in the Naruto-verse, I love AUs.
I have very, very mixed feelings about AUs because I think sometimes you take a character so far out of their context that you might as well be writing someone else. I noticed that a lot, especially like I've noticed that with the My Hero Academia fandom, that like you take these characters so far out of the context of like quirks and stuff that it's like you might as well just write an OC. This isn't that character if they don't have all of this stuff.
I think, yeah, I mean, I absolutely get where you're coming from. And like for me, it was like, and I've mentioned this before, like particularly because it was basically just Naruto for me, but also Bleach.
Yeah.
But everything was in like before the coffee shop AU, it was the high school AU. Okay, the high school AU, the college AU. Again, so funny because most people who were writing were Americans, and so all the rest of us emulated the Americans. And so now you have Japanese characters going to American high schools written by non-American people, which was a mess, by the way. But I really loved that because when it comes to things like Naruto, which is set in, you know, like that kind of world with, you know, jutsus and chakra and all of those things, I often found it complicated. I didn't like attempting to write within that universe. So I liked removing them and just keeping their personalities, but writing, you know, like angsty high school, college AUs where it's like, we've been best friends forever, will they or won't they? And I think that a lot of those types of things lend themselves well to AUs, but then you have other things that are more difficult. So for instance, with Durarara, I never took that out of Ikebukuro and out of that setting because I didn't feel the need to, basically.
No, absolutely. And I think the thing about AUs is that they do open up a lot of opportunities for very, very interesting things. And I was almost the opposite. I was so determined to stay rooted in the canon of that world that for me, and I don't feel this way anymore, AUs were almost disrespectful. I felt that way about crossovers. Remember when everything was a crossover?
Oh, God.
And you would just have, I remember reading one and it was like an Inuyasha Tsubasa crossover. And it's like, what the fuck is happening? Like in hindsight, that's brilliant. And I hate that like my dumb, rigid brain was like, I hate this and you're bad.
But I think, I mean, I know I mentioned this one specific fic before. It was multi-chapter. I don't think I ever finished it, but I remember it so vividly. It was called Gay Day. And it was literally like, it was like a big ass group date at an amusement park. And literally every single ship that existed in like 2006 from all franchises was in this fic. Like it was crazy.
That
like
sounds so chaotic.
Like Yuki and Shuichi was there, but Sasuke and Naruto were there, but Ichigo and Uryu were there. Like everyone was there. And one thing that strikes me now that I have fallen back into fic, and you know, I'm reading Kinporsche fic because that's all I'm doing with my life these days.
That is all she's doing.
So many people are doing this with all the Thai BLs, and people are like, it's in the comments, like they're breaking the AO3 tags because they're just, it's all the series, and there are like 3 pairings in each show, and it's like, it's insane.
It's absolutely insane. And again, it's that cyclical nature, you know, nature is healing or returning.
I don't know. Is it healing?
Is this healing? Is this what healing looks like? We also start to see, at least in the BL space, more people being willing to put forward their OCs. I remember for a long time, if you were going to do male, you almost had to root it in 2 canon characters. This is where I started seeing increasingly more OCs, still usually written by women, but writing as men. This becomes important later because sometimes all the women that thought they were cis aren't actually cis.
Shocking.
So like for me in my life, this is around the time that I started writing as a male. And I figured out very quickly that I was not cisgender. I knew that I was already bisexual, but I felt very, very comfortable using male nouns, using male pronouns, using male modifiers, and writing as a male. And now I'm a gender fluid whore.
A shocking plot twist.
Right, a shocking plot twist. Crackfic.
Oh my God. I have a soft spot for crackfic. Like,
yeah, I like crack taken seriously. Like the idea is crack, but executed well. I think I say this as someone who absolutely cannot write humor. Like I cannot do humor. I admire people who can write a good crackfic
so much. Like
Same.
that is an art.
And keep it in character, because I
Oh
think
my god,
the
so
big thing
good.
about crackfic and AUs is sometimes I feel like you have to draw these characters so far out of character, OOC. And that was, oh my god, if you want to talk about like comments that hurt your soul, accusing someone of writing a character OOC, I'd rather be called a slur. What do you mean
Yeah.
I wrote this out of character?
Oh, that one hurts. It cuts deep.
Like, so I like crack as a concept. I think especially back then it was kind of everywhere. I also want to highlight where fics are being posted. So we've lost Quizzilla. Quizzilla no longer allows this kind of content because Anne Rice decided that her vampires are super, super straight. And we see the rise of a little website called DeviantArt. I like crack as a concept can be such a phrase without context.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say anything, but
literally the Yaoi Shelf in a nutshell is if you take any of these out of context, it could ruin our lives.
oh my god. But then again, a lot of things with context can also ruin our lives.
Yeah, I sometimes think the context makes it worse.
The amount of times I've said that I love fictional incest on this podcast is terrifying.
Same. But you start to see the rise of a little site called DeviantArt. And DeviantArt, I think, was so important to especially the fic space because it started to posit the writer as this like horny god that we reveled at being called deviants. Our work was a deviation. So
yeah, and I just remember using that site before knowing what that word meant.
I remember using that site, and it is the reason why I can't look at anything that's Sonic the Hedgehog. DeviantArt is the thing that killed Sonic the Hedgehog for me.
I mean, and this is not shaming anyone for their preferences, but I have some flashbacks regarding inflation art.
Yeah, there's definitely like some old fan PTSD of like
it was always on the front page.
It was oh man, it was everywhere. But
oh my god,
this is where you start to see fanfic writer as someone who's propped up. This is a time where you can say I'm writing fanfic, and you might even get a little famous for it. I mean, famous in like the span of there's 5 people on the internet. There's 10 people on the internet who know. But like, this is where you could start getting a little famous for your work. People recognize you. They know your name. So like when I was publishing on Quizzilla, people weren't coming to my fic on a regular basis because it was me. It was because I was writing a pairing they liked.
I just want to say something real quick because I just had a melt. My brain just melted. Can you believe we don't have Death Note on this slide?
I think we block that out of our memory because we talk about Matt and Mello every day.
We literally talk about Matt and Mello every day.
Like, I could ask Carola about the weather, and it's like, Mello's really cute, isn't he?
Matt is the best doting boyfriend, really.
Yeah, Matt's an excellent boyfriend.
I love him.
Yeah, he's great.
But yeah, they do belong on this slide. Just we haven't forgotten about Death Note.
But you know who belongs on this slide more is Elle and Light.
I know.
They belong on this slide more because we hadn't met Matt and Mello yet.
I mean, they
existed, but like we weren't convinced they were fucking each other in Matt's car.
I don't know. I was pretty convinced the moment they, revealed him.
When he opened his mouth and promptly died.
Can we not talk about that?
When he opened his mouth and promptly was shot to death.
I agree. Yes, Matt and Mello, best part of Death Note. The fact that Matt is in 8 fucking panels in the entire manga and he has more fans than Light says everything.
And like he's like
perfect.
He's like Bigfoot. Like we saw him like somewhere in the back of the panel, and it's like
that one.
That one.
I want that one. Yeah. I think that Matt is literally the reason for my obsession with these side characters, like these background characters that never get enough time.
No, 100% me.
Oh my god.
No, 100% me. Like
an origin story has been discovered.
Yeah, it's Matt. Matt is the reason for that. But again, we're using canon and information to build these pairings. So when people were shipping Elle and Light, it wasn't just because we felt like it. We had a myriad of reasons to believe that these two men had feelings for each other, because there is no heterosexual reason why you handcuff yourself to someone you think is a mass murderer.
No. Unless that is, your kink. And that's his prerogative. Oh yeah,
Right.
Kaoru. Yeah, absolutely.
Triggered.
The foot washing scene. And like there are so many things in that series that there are
Yes.
no straight explanations.
There's not a heterosexual explanation to any of those things. So it wasn't just horny fan flight of fancy. It was, it was, but with receipts.
Yes.
And I think that's where
a big
this
stack of receipts.
And I think this is where that part of fandom was so fascinating to me, was that yes, we did really just want to see these two fictional boys kiss, but we also had a stack yay thick of reasons why we felt this way.
Oh yeah.
But I definitely have to bring up DeviantArt, because this is where you start getting where the writer, the artist, the creator is the celebrity. It isn't just that you are a producer of this work. It's people are coming back because they like you.
Yeah, this is
and I
true.
think that's a massive shift that I think really sets us up to where we are in the modern day. We still have LiveJournal and fanfiction.net and adultfanfiction.net. MySpace was also a really, really big place where a lot of role playing happened.
Oh yeah.
MySpace.
I was like, why is MySpace on there? But of course, the role playing. I was never big into that. So
I was really big into role playing. MySpace was huge for that. And then also, again, like a lot of your fan shrines were still happening on forums and on MySpace. So if you were super, super, super into certain things, you could find it on MySpace. I also love everyone bringing up Gaia, because the Gaia forums is partly why forums is even on here. When I tell you fans find a way, because Gaia and Neopets, the most deranged fan content on those sites, because we found a way. I mean, we could say that about Quizilla as well. Quizilla starting off as a website that was owned by Nickelodeon, to be like, what's
and
your
then
favorite?
You guys were just like,
and then we turned it into a porn factory.
Wow.
Sorry, what's your favorite Degrassi character? And we turned it into a porn slum.
I am in awe and slightly afraid of the power that the Quizilla fans wielded. Like,
listen, we were I don't mean to sound gatekeepery, but like we were built different.
Yeah, I agree.
Like we were built different. Quizilla was oh man. But it was so interesting to think that, like, and I think DeviantArt especially, this is the rise where, and I see the word come up, this is where it starts becoming almost like social media, that you have a following because it's you are a following a particular writer, you are following a particular artist, and having a personality as a writer or an artist is important. Because when I was on Quizilla and Zanga, I didn't want anyone to know anything about me. Don't know anything about me. Just look at the horny things that I'm writing. Don't think about me. Don't perceive me. I'm not real. I am an abstract concept. But by the time you start posting on DeviantArt, I am a person. I am a creator. I am someone who has thoughts and opinions, an oeuvre, a style.
Yeah. That is
I am
so
the Michael
true.
Bay of fanfic.
Because there were, like, if you look at like fanfiction.net and AFF, there were definitely, those fanfic authors that were like dominating a fandom, and everyone admired them and everyone knew them, and or knew of them. But
Mhm.
when they made the move to sites like, or if they made the move to sites like DeviantArt, that's, the personality aspect is so important, because
Mhm.
that's almost, you start getting almost like these parasocial relationships, because it's
Yes.
like, because then you can interact with them on a different level,
Mhm.
and it starts to build that. It's a much more personal relationship, for
Mhm.
better or worse.
Absolutely. And I think this is also where you start getting writer as self-indulgent monster affectionately. Because I remember like when I was writing on Quizzilla, it was almost all metric based. It's if I hit a certain amount of hits or responses, then I will post another fic. By the time I got to DeviantArt, it was, you're gonna read my fic. I don't care. This is what I'm doing. I don't care about your feelings.
Oh my God.
I don't care about your feelings. You're here, you're not here. And again, that's a huge paradigm shift from, fic writer as almost like altruistic part of the fandom. Like, we're the scribes of this world, that we have a dedication, a point. We have to write down the history. We have to catalog this. And I made a reference to being monastic. That especially like in early fandom, it did almost feel like we were monks recording history. Like we had to do this. By the time we get to DeviantArt, we've left the convent. It's like, I just want to write boys getting digged down.
Uh-huh.
There's not a reason. We're just doing it.
Like our
But
ancestors did.
yeah, just like our ancestors did. Uh, this is still a world where there's a lot of cishet women, but increasingly men are starting to have feelings about fictional characters, including some of them in the BL space. Again, where I saw a lot of men creating content was cis gay men, and it was usually very, very OC driven. Like if it was going to be male romance, it was like a poorly skinned self-insert and like
Literally.
hottest, yeah, and like hottest possible character. Like one of my best friends in high school wrote the largest Angel fanfic just so he could fuck Angel or be fucked by Angel.
Yeah.
So you do start to see males in this space increasingly getting into the 2010s, but it's a little bit more self-indulgent. I don't think that that's bad. It's just a different approach.
And it's not necessarily true for everyone, obviously.
Absolutely
like,
not.
it's just our experiences. I didn't know. I mean, I think it's because I've never had a lot of writer friends, so I can't really.
Until you met me.
Until I met you, and I mean, yes, actually, you're my only writer friend. No, you're not. But no, but like I didn't have a lot of writer friends at the time, but I definitely, those I did know and those who were male, there was definitely a big self-insert thing happening there.
I don't know how to say this without sounding really, really narcissistic. I wasn't the only writer, but I was the best writer. Like, but I was the one that, like, when my friends wanted commissioned fic, it was me. So like I was the person that when I was in high school, my friends would just like give me like $5 and say, I want you to write like a non-con Kakashi Sasuke fic. Here's $5 and a cookie. And I'd go write on like
the cold hard cash of the early 2000s.
Right. Like
$5 and a cookie.
$5 and a chocolate chip cookie. And I'd go write like on paper, like however many pages of Kakashi just going to town on Sasuke.
Oh my God.
And then like deliver it in a folder like it's actual work.
I could just see you like in the corridor at school, like pulling the folder out of like your coat, like some shady drug deal.
That's
what you were doing.
So, I wasn't the only writer, but I was like the writer. So all of my friends were whether they were artists or writers, we were all doing it, but I was like the famous one. I was the Tamaki of the host class.
Oh my God. I was the only one in my friend group who wrote fic. So, I pestered everyone into reading my stuff, and then I got them hooked, and then I got to bask in the glory of them begging me for the next chapter. It was great.
I love that for you.
Yeah, it was
I
amazing.
also remember printing out BL stuff in the school library.
Oh my
I did a
god.
lot of fan dubbing in the school library, which, do you have any idea how hard it is to try to grunt into an old tinny microphone back
I
when
can't believe
Crunchyroll?
I can't believe your school library had microphones. Like we didn't have anything. We
You
had
know,
a printer that never worked, and when it printed, it was like everything was black and white, and it was like just a tiny square in
yes.
like the top corner. Like we couldn't print anything.
Ah, yes, the early fan dubbing days back when Crunchyroll was an illegal pirating site.
Oh my god.
But you still see women or females assigned at birth being the big drivers of fan culture. This is also where I think this is where like the hate against female creators started to reach its fever pitch, because male creators on DeviantArt were treated very differently than female creators. And there was almost this desire to be this like genderless, amorphous creature, which I think is an interesting, almost like predecessor to how we get to
Yeah.
like modern VTubing and stuff like that,
Mm.
where the whole point, and I'm guilty of this, I was using very androgynous names. I was never like very open about what gender I was, mostly because I was dealing with gender angst. But like, I was never really quick to be like, I am a female, I am a girl, because I knew that I would get hate just for that. That like, by extension of being female, my work was
Mm.
perceived differently. So like the boys on DeviantArt can have their weird inflation stuff, but if the girls wrote two boys kissing, they're bad and toxic and gross, and they would get flamed.
Except that wasn't, no one said you were toxic. It was just
Yeah, we didn't have that word back then.
like, oh, you're gross,
Yeah, you're
or
gross.
like because and like now people use the word fujoshi, like people know the word fujoshi and throw it
Yes.
around like a slur, but back
Mhm.
then it was just like, oh, those damn yaoi fangirls, like that was
Yeah.
it. And that wasn't, it could be a term of like you could be proud to be one, or it was like
Right. There
derogatory.
was, and I definitely was part of that generation that tried to reclaim it and say like, yeah, we are rotten, and like, but we're all rotten. You can't hate all of us. You can
Mm.
hate some of us, but there's always going to be more. Just like in that first Avengers movie, you can knock one of us down, but we're always going to avenge the earth. We're always going to be here. Um, and then just like honestly, just being a fangirl in general, like fangirl hate was very popular back then.
Oh yeah.
It was just very, very popular to hate on fangirls, because especially Western society just doesn't like women having fun.
Yeah,
To be
God
just,
forbid teenage girls have interests, right?
yeah, God forbid. Um, so I think this is such an interesting transition point into fandom,
Mm.
because we're gonna see in the next slide where shit gets off the rails.
Woohoo!
You ready to go forward in time?
No, but I guess we have to. There is one word on the slide that is so triggering. And
Voltron?
oh god, I was never even in the fandom. They just ruined it for everyone.
Okay.
Oh
I don't mean
no.
to harsh anyone's yums. Voltron ruined fandom.
Oh,
Oh man.
like, and we all got like stuck in the crossfire. I was just on Twitter minding my own business, and then the world exploded, and
I think that was the thing, is that there were always fan skirmishes.
oh
Again,
yeah,
naval combat. There were
yeah.
all, I don't like One Piece, but you can think about it like One Piece. But like, we're on our little boats, we're all in the Great Seas together. Yeah, sometimes there were a couple of boats, several paces over, that are having issues, but your boat was okay. For whatever
Yeah.
reason, Voltron was like the Costa fucking Concordia, just plowing through everything. People that weren't even in the fandom
Oh
were affected
god.
by it. All of our
Yeah.
little dinghies are just getting pulled under this undertow.
Like I mean, there are two, like, okay, for me as a person who has literally just lived in this Asian media bubble for so long, like
Mhm,
I've never seen Avatar or Legend of Korra or Voltron. And
mhm,
I'm using those as examples because to me, they're very similar in the sense that they are Western, they have a big audience, and I know a lot of the ships from them by proxy because I keep seeing it. But they give me very different responses. Like someone mentions Legend of Korra, I'm like, yeah, good for them. I see they're happy. Like everyone's super happy. Voltron is just like, there's an atomic bomb going off over there. I'm not touching that.
And to sum up the issue with Voltron is Voltron was one of the earliest examples of fans having a conniption about underaged minor characters and sexual content.
I don't.
Something that fandom has done for decade at this point.
Because surprise,
for whatever reason,
characters.
Voltron was like the epitome series that everyone was suddenly super concerned about it, when hitherto that point we had literal Shotokan Black Butler.
I know, right? It is so wild because you know that one scene, the corset scene, and we were all like, "Oh my fucking god!"
Screamed ourselves for that,
and then
no one questioned Sebastian and Ciel until we got to Claude and Alois, because Alois was trying to non-con Claude.
You know,
and Ciel.
There's a part of me that respects Alois, okay? Like he has a special spot in my heart for all his whorishness.
I've learned to hate him a lot less.
I respect him as a boy slut. I'll say that.
But Voltron was such an interesting thing because that's where you started to see fandom wars go beyond containment. You know, I've been with one of my friends, I was talking about the SCP Foundation a lot, you know, search, contain, protect. And the whole point is containment. Most of our little dumb fan skirmishes stayed in our dumb little fan skirmishes, and they were always respectful. Voltron is where I started seeing, like, we're using slurs and we're calling people out of their names and we're just insulting each other and we're attacking artists and directors and actors. And it's like,
and
it was just, I would love to know why. I would love to know what the doxing had begun. I would love to know what in that series was the one that did it.
Oh god, yeah, that was a thing. The breaking into DreamWorks and stealing things.
I do remember that.
Oh my god, what world is this?
What were we doing?
But like seriously, what happened? Because it's like, again, like it's been pointing out, you said it, and it was pointed out in the chat. Like it's not like there hadn't been grumbles about, you know, unhealthy pairings or whatever before, but it was just the Voltron fans truly took it and ran with it. And it's like, what happened?
They did.
Why then? Why that show?
And you can see the same thing happening in opposite with Super Hulock, because Supernatural had been popular for decades, but it wasn't until around 2010, 2012 that it started becoming overtly gay. So this is where you start getting people asking Jensen Ackles so much about whether physical Jensen Ackles wants to fuck actual Misha Collins, not Castiel, so badly that people were convinced that Jensen Ackles was homophobic.
Oh god.
He was so uncomfortable being consistently asked about him, human person who had a wife, wanting to sleep with one of his co-workers, that people were convinced that he was a homophobe.
Yeah.
And you started seeing people like Misha Collins, who plays Castiel, really start to play up and play into that queer baiting that Supernatural did. There is no bigger Destiel shipper than the actor who plays Cass.
Even I've noticed that one. Like I haven't. Right. This is not my boat, but I saw that flag. I did see. That's a very big flag.
This is my boat,
all the way over on my island.
Yep. I'm not happy about it, but this is my boat. But there is no bigger Destiel shipper than Misha Collins. Yeah, Misha on Twitter giving out his actual phone number. He did that
happened? Oh my god.
Supernatural.
You guys were wild. I remember I had to I used Tumblr Savior and I had to blacklist Super Hulock and Supernatural because there was just so much of it flooding my feed all the damn time and I didn't
Because
know
we-
anything about it.
And it was so funny because Supernatural, I remember starting Supernatural like in 2004, 2005. This is almost a decade in, and Supernatural is just getting gayer. So this is where you start getting all of the characters that like we would come to know and love. And we left this off, but it really should be here. This is where we start to see the rise of a little website called Tumblr.
Oh my god. Yes.
At least Super Hulock gave us Omegaverse.
Oh my god. It's I have
Listen,
feelings.
listen. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But Tumblr is what gave us the rise of now we have the celebrity creator.
Oh.
You can become famous in your genre. You can become famous and known for doing something. And for as much as I did not like the absolute cesspool Tumblr was back in the day, it was ruthlessly efficient at giving you exactly what you wanted.
Yeah.
Now, you would always see the echoes of some other bullshit happening, hence the Voltron implosion. But for the most part, if you looked at my Tumblr feed back in those days, it was nothing but Black Butler, Destiel.
Dramatical murder.
I didn't do Dramatical Murder, but
Oh.
it was everywhere.
This was the era I was taking classes to take. I was taking classes.
Mhm.
I don't know. We don't need my entire educational history, but I was sitting at the back of the classroom, reblogging porn on my Tumblr especially on Man Sex Mondays.
Oh,
And
Man, Sex
it was,
Mondays.
I love Man Sex Monday. That was my invention and my pride and joy. And there was so much dramatical murder. That was the the heyday of dramatical murder.
Absolutely. And there was also like this interesting almost like resurgence of a lot of older fandom. So like that's where I started seeing like a lot of like Yu-Gi-Oh pairings and stuff like that. Pairings that existed in Yu-Gi-Oh since Yu-Gi-Oh started in the late 90s, but that's where you started seeing it more. Tumblr was such an interesting place because as we started losing spaces where fans, I got triggered by seeing puppy shipping. So triggered.
I feel like we should have set up like a follow-up to this panel where we all just go to group therapy.
Yeah.
Because like now we're all just damaged.
You can come join us in our Discord. We'll be having group therapy tomorrow.
Like aftercare.
Yeah, we're gonna, you know, as the former Dom, my aftercare always involves Oreos. We're just gonna have a nice break with cookies. Oh, I was a very nice Dom. It always involved like Oreos and like lots of compliments. But it was so interesting to see like almost like this two sides of Tumblr, one being like very anti-sex and very vitriolic, and one that was so pro-sex that it was almost a crime.
Yeah, and I just, I remember Tumblr was also the rise of the young social justice warrior. Like we were all learning about social justice and a lot of it was so good. Like I, as a person, living in Europe and living in Norway, there were a lot of things going on in the world that I had no idea about, and I really appreciated all the things, like the way that you got to see how this isn't being talked about in the media, or this unfair thing is happening in that state or whatever. And there were so many good things, but then people took it so far. Like I genuinely think that this is where it started a little bit, that people
I agree.
Became so aware and then became, it was virtue signaling.
But I also have to give, not to cut you off, but I also have to give Tumblr credit for being one of the first places that, and I'll say this, as a Black queer fan, I felt okay saying any of that. So I'm African American. None of my profiles ever signaled that I was a Black person, to the point that if someone asked me what my race was, I'd usually ignore it or lie. Because at that time, being a Black fan, while we have always existed and always been there, it was not seen as something that Black people did. And fandom had a huge race problem, especially the Western fandom side of it. They also had a huge problem with women. So me being Black and biologically female, I did a lot of hiding behind avatars and screen names to almost like cosplay being a white person or a white man to infiltrate these spaces, because who I wasn't someone that was accepted. But it was only on a place like Tumblr that I could say, I'm a bisexual, gender fluid,
Yeah.
Black
Yeah.
AFAB. We didn't use AFAB back then, but female born person. So you're right. It's where we get the rise of identity politics and the modern SJW, but because it was one of the most liberating places to be able to say that. We had not had a fandom space that was open to that so much until we got to Tumblr. And we and I hate it, but we have to give them credit for that.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think that there were a lot of like good things that came out of it.
Absolutely.
But some people took it too far. Like, it
became monstrous.
Yeah.
But we have to give credit where credit is due.
Absolutely. Like, if it wasn't for Tumblr and, you know, communities on Tumblr, I wouldn't be aware of everything that you just said. Like, I'd never considered the struggle that African American fans might go through, you know, because it's so far removed from my own personal experience. And I am so appreciative of, you know, everyone who shared their experiences and, you know, taught us about these things. But then at the same time, it's like what the SJW movement became. Yeah.
Well, and I will say Tumblr was interesting because that's where you started seeing like the rise of like Black Annie Twitter, where a lot of frankly Black creators got run off of Tumblr because it was just white people talking over us.
Yeah.
So
that whole thing with amplifying voices by talking over them, that was huge back then.
So it started off as this place where like, oh my God, we're free. We can say these things. We can be open. I don't have to lie about my race or my gender. And then it was just, listen to this Black, screeches 5 white women.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have a lot of patience for that. I still don't have a lot of patience for it. I have less patience for it now.
Fair.
So you started to see the rise of, again, these almost segregated communities where like a lot of Black fans moved to Twitter, where Black anime Twitter is its completely own different universe. You get conventions like DreamCon, which is pretty much a Black exclusive convention that feels entirely different from the other big Texas cons. But I will say it was nice to start being able to acknowledge that many of us, especially by this point, were very queer.
Yes.
While many of us started as cisgender teenagers, by the time we get to here, we are usually some flavor of queer.
Yep.
Almost like there's a connection to it.
Strange. It's who would have thought?
And you started to see more of a desire that if you're writing male content, that there was almost this like requirement that you needed to be queer to speak to queer issues.
Yeah.
And I think both of us have feelings about that.
Yes.
This is also where you start to see headcanons being less of a research thing and more of a I feel this way because I feel this way thing. I remember like, do you remember that infamous like Hamilton AU stuff where like Thomas Jefferson is like a Black trans woman, whatever. And it's like,
I literally listened to a video essay about this the other day.
And I just remember looking at that. I don't like Hamilton. 1776 is the American patriotic.
I've never watched
don't bring
it.
up the Miku binder. Oh my God. I'm so triggered. But
trauma bonding live with
trauma bonding.
Shelf.
But,
oh
like,
God.
That's where you started to get that. And like, I think this is where, and again, so like by the time we hit like 2010, I was in my 20s. I was older. I'd been doing this for a while. And by the time we got here is, I'll say, when I started dipping out of fandom. I still watched anime. I still read manga. I was president of my college's club. But
you were
this
so
is
cool.
Huh?
You were so cool.
I know. But this is where I started to dip out. Because one, I felt like I had outgrown it, but the outgrowing wasn't necessarily that I had outgrown it. I had outgrown the conversations that we're having.
Yeah.
I didn't like how people were having these conversations, that we weren't rooting things in research anymore, that we were saying what we were saying. And also in hindsight, I realized that a lot of that stuff, that discomfort is rooted in racism and sexism. So like, if you listen to me now, I have a lot of feelings about like race swapping characters. That conversation started on Tumblr. And I have now even less tolerance for it when people argue greatly about the melanin of fictional characters that don't have melanin. Um, this is where you start getting headcanons about, oh, this character is trans, this character is this character is that, without having anything to back it up. And then when you do ask, because again, I'm from the old guard, so my gut is to ask, why do you think this way? Oh my God, you're a racist, you're homophobic, you're misogynist, you're terrible. And it's like, no, I'm asking you a question because if I, in 2005, kicked a door down and said, you know, I think this character is this without backing it up, we'd be scared.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's not like we're saying that, you know, headcanons are wrong. Like,
No, not at
absolutely
all.
have your headcanon and enjoy it. But, you know, people are allowed to ask questions. Like back in the day, that would be, you know, a conversation. Like no one's challenging you or telling you that you have to defend yourself. Like this is not an attack. It's just, you know, yeah, like CitrusCon is saying in the comments, like the mod is saying that we're just curious, like why?
Yeah, a lot of
what are your reasons?
Yeah, what are your reasons? Why do you feel this way? But it became an attack. It's, well, look at the series. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I don't see it.
Exactly. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
What are you seeing that I'm not seeing?
You said something that's objectively inflammatory, like this white character is now Puerto Rican. You've said something that is on paper inflammatory. I need to know your reasoning. Huh?
Are you talking about Wolfwood right now?
Not yet, but I will be.
Which just, I had a flashback to a recent conversation.
Oh, Nicholas. that sweet man. But it's like, okay, you've done something that is on paper one of the cardinal sins of old fandom, is you've made a declaration without backing it up. So yeah, I'm gonna ask why you feel this way and how you got to this conclusion. But this is where you start to see the breakdown of being able to have those conversations maturely. And this is where I started dipping out of fandom. Honestly, yeah.
Seven. Like I lived through all of that.
Yes,
and then Live Journal itself went, we're gonna make some changes, and they fucked up the site, and I fell off. And then I just also fell out of fandom. Like I was still enjoying the things, but I wasn't part of the conversation.
Exactly. And I will say that I never stopped engaging in these fan things. So like, oh my God, I was still watching Hitalia. I was still cosplaying. I was still role playing. I was still writing. I was still doing all these things, but I was sharing them peer to peer. So I was role playing with one partner in private chat.
Yeah.
I was writing on forums that I helped build. I was doing this stuff, you know, sharing. Now we have Google Docs. Now we have online communication, sharing documents with friends over email. So I didn't age out of fandom. I aged out of the way that that fandom was happening.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of us older fans didn't feel at home in the spaces that were being created and the way that those conversations were being had.
Absolutely. And I think we've talked about this on the old the show, that Tumblr especially was probably one of the more hostile environments to go to.
It was terrifying.
If your original home was something like DeviantArt, if it was something like Quizilla, if it was something like adultfanfiction.net, that Tumblr was a really inhospitable and just difficult to understand, just UI based place.
Yeah, like it could be great, but it could be terrifying.
Right. And you know, so for me, one of the things that got me to dip out was Once Cessed. When everyone was like what did that whole like Lorax thing, and everyone was convinced that like Zach Braff Lorax was Onceler was like the hottest, freshest thing, and everyone tried to ship him with himself and do self-cessed.
I barely know this.
Oh, once cessed. So like once cessed is about where I start like, and it was fun, but it was weird. It took over time. Yeah.
I had
This-
to Google that before this panel because I was like, what? I seem to have completely missed. I wasn't
Good.
in this corner. This was not on my corner of
Good.
the internet, clearly.
Good, because it was everywhere.
Oh god, but the sexy Tumblr man phenomenon.
That's the Tumblr man. And you know, we only talked about the supernatural part of Super Hulock. We also have to acknowledge BBC Sherlock, a show that I hate.
Oh my god. And yet.
And Stephen Moffat, who hates us.
You know, it was such an experience to be on Tumblr in that era and knowing the hate, like the mutual hate between Moffat and the fans and not knowing anything about it. Like, it was wild. It was insane.
There is no greater animosity than between Stephen Moffat and the people that made him famous.
Like, it almost made me jealous that I was a part of it because I was like, what is happening?
Because
Are these people okay?
No. And I don't like BBC Sherlock that much. I can totally see why it was mimetic and why you would queer bait it. This is also where we start seeing queer bait used as a negative thing.
And misused.
And grossly misused. Because let's be realistic. As much as I love Destiel, we all knew good and damn well that that was never going to be Endgame. Until it was. And then Cass had to go to Mega Hell.
I just, you know, we're spending so much time on this. I'm looking at the time, but I just remember...
an hour and a half still.
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh. I thought we had... Okay.
We have an hour... No,
we have 25 minutes.
Oh my god, yeah, we need to wrap this up.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I just remember when being very confused about the supernatural people getting what they wanted and being so mad about it. I was like, what is happening right now?
That is true. So we're gonna wrap up a little bit because I apparently don't know what time is.
For once, it's not me. Wow.
Yeah, it's me.
What is happening?
So now we see the rise of AO3. And AO3, I think, is the spiritual successor to something like adultfanfiction.net or fanfiction.net.
Yeah.
And that was really, really nice. You start to see more pairings that are listed here because fandom started to expand. Again, you could be that polyglot. You could like everything. It wasn't that you would just be into one thing. Of course, it doesn't make any sense that someone would just be in to one weird fandom thing. Usually nerds are nerds.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to deny any of those parts of you. So like, especially by like 2015 and even getting into 2012 when like the MCU became popular, I could show that like, yes, I have always loved and been influenced by Western comics. I could start to show that like, yes, I did watch a lot of Star Trek and Star Wars. Yes, I have these rootings and other things. And you can express that without it, and it still be in like the BL space and it not feel so incongruent.
Yeah, and I also think that, you know, this is when this is when we start having it good, you know. We are starting to get all of these options, like all of the streaming sites and all of the legal ways that you can get things, and how, you know, you're starting to get simulcasts and translations and releases and simultaneously, this is also when, you know, the global BL space begins to grow a little bit, at least as we kind of start to go towards the latter half, you know, like 2018, maybe, you know, it's a lot more global. And so now you have something called Western BL, basically, like there's the borders, like the global borders are being erased a lot more, I think.
And I also think what's amazing is that, you know, who is producing fanfic? Literally everyone.
Yeah, literally everyone.
Almost like this queer rite of passage that so many of us are using it as like gender affirmation and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I love that you put your mom maybe writing fanfic, because the thing is, so many of the people who were the teenagers a couple of slides ago
are parents now.
Yeah, they are. You
like we are the
your mom's
parents now. Exactly. So like
twist.
Oh my god, yeah, I
Oh
can't. I
my
could never have.
God.
I could never have children because if that ever happened, I would throw myself off a building. It's like,
Oh my
mother, will you
God.
tell us about your days where you shipped Edward Elric and Roy Mustang? It's like, I will not.
Can you imagine you stumble across a dead dove do not eat and your parent wrote it?
Okay, actually, that'd be kind of cool. I want it to be like the movie Contact, where like my parent has died and like is using like space-time magic to
Oh my
communicate to me through dead dove.
Oh my God.
I would eat that shit up. So headcanons are still more of a vibe than a research thing, but with older fans coming back into fan space, which a lot of us did rise out of the ashes when Tumblr decided to ban porn, and we all went to Twitter, which is now X, which is dying slowly, and we had to return back to Tumblr. But for a few glorious years, Twitter was the place that especially older fans could exist and could be. Because
I
we're
love
old.
Twitter.
I love
mean,
Twitter.
Twitter is a nightmare, but it's the only social media site that I truly, truly love.
Correct.
And they can tear it from my cold dead hands. I'm not leaving yet.
Absolutely correct. So
that is so cool, Jen.
I love that. I love that. Also, we're seeing a meteoric rise of Omegaverse. Omegaverse has always been here, but it is very, very popular now. We do not have time to talk about it.
We did. Wait, no, we did not do an episode of it on it. But we
we did a Patreon episode where I disassociated. Why does any of this matter? So it matters because fanfic, especially of the queer kind, has been a staple part of this world since the inception of fandom. Fanfic has always been there and it will always continue to be there. And especially watching the trends and how it has changed is incredibly indicative and important to consider the pulse of what fandom is.
Mm.
You can judge, it's almost like the canary in the coal mine. You can judge the health of the state of the fan world based on who and what is producing fan works. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I was just admiring your eloquence, really. Like, you're so good at putting these things together. But yeah,
thank you. I appreciate
I don't
it.
know, like, what can I add to that? But it's shaped us, like
It did.
It's shaped fandom. It's
Mhm.
like we were saying in the comments earlier that fanfiction.net walked so AO3 could run, all of this is connected. Like, fandom history is so important.
It is.
And we've talked this to death on the podcast, but like, if you don't understand or have some basic knowledge of fandom history, you don't understand why things are the way they are. Like, it's so upsetting to us as older fans to see how the fandoms are imploding and eating each other, like how people are literally eating each other, and not in the good way, because we built these spaces to be safe spaces where it was ship and let ship and don't read, and
right,
and it was so formative, in finding out what we liked or who we were, or finding friends and finding our writing styles. And
right.
it's, those were our formative years.
They really were. And I agree with you. Like, there is this like lamenting sadness to watching younger fans really do this to these spaces that we worked so hard to build because they were safe. And I get it, times have changed, and we can't go back to the world that we were in where everything was Shotacon and non-con.
And nor do we
want to.
But like, if you like Shotacon and non-con, then that's your prerogative. You can still do that.
And like, things that I wish would stay in hopefully this past is I'd love for us to get past doxing each other.
That would be great. Yeah.
I'd love for us to stop using actual insults and slurs at people. I had someone call me a homophobe for saying that I don't like Yuri on Ice, me, an actual bisexual.
Well, we all know that bisexuals don't exist, and that you are running the longest con of all long cons. We all know that.
This is true. I'm a fake fan. I haven't been doing this for 20 years. I'm fully just in this for clout and male attention.
And I mean, and you've been an anti all along.
I've been a purity cult anti the entire time.
Like, listen, your lies, they're coming to the surface, Amanda.
So we're gonna open up some time for questions, but If you liked this kind of content, then we think you will love our show. So we have some time to answer some questions from you guys. If you have any comments, concerns, anything about what we've said over the past, whatever. But I had a great time talking about this.
Yeah, I mean, we could do this all day, evidently.
Yeah, we've done this all day. So we will open up this time for questions as needed, but I had a great time doing this.
Yeah, this was amazing. I'm so honored we
you.
get to be one of the opening panels.
I know, I feel very important. Like, I feel like very like, oh my God, look at us. Like, look at how far we've come. And like, it's amazing to think like when I was younger and like just like a dumb, horny teenager, I would never have imagined that like I could do something like
Yeah.
this. If you had told me at 16, like, no, you're gonna have like a whole last BL podcast. It's like, what's a podcast?
Yeah, like first of all, what's a podcast?
Yeah, first of all, what the fuck are you doing here? Second of all, what's a podcast?
I have a lot of questions.
I have a lot of questions, time traveler. Question: what is your most recent brain rot ships? Plant Seth.
Listen,
Plant Seth.
I mentioned it. I am so neck deep in Kin Porsche brain rot. I cannot get out. It's been a year. I'm still here. I will never leave. I haven't been this obsessed with something
Yes.
in I think 20 years.
But no, I actually plant wood as well because I love a good OT3.
I love a good OT3.
We didn't talk enough about OT3s.
No, oh my God, they were so big in like I think the 2005 to 10s for me at least. When I discovered,
I would say more 2010s. Just because like free to me was like OT3 heaven. What was the character that you love is hated the most by fandom? Taki Aizawa from Gravitation.
Oh my God, why are you doing this? My character I love that is hated by fandom. I guess Adam. I really like Adam.
What did Adam do?
I don't know. Lots of people hate him. Ask Peachy.
Why?
I don't know. He's perfect.
Carola, what's your Kin Porsche ship? I don't watch Kin Porsche.
You will. It's Kin Porsche. I'm sorry. I've warmed to Vegas Pete a little bit. I don't like Vegas. I want to punch him in the face, affectionately. Kin and Porsche, always Kin and Porsche, but also the Tem brain rot. Like, listen, I love them. I hate them, but I love them.
If you could erase any moment in fandom history, what would you erase? Voltron. Voltron.
Even there, but yeah. Oh, also that cookie run. When people got upset about the fictional cookies?
Genshin. I would erase Genshin. I would erase Voltron and Genshin.
I don't know enough about Genshin.
Oh, you know what? No, I would erase when DFW Hitalia started doing weird Nazi stuff. Remember when the Hitalia fandom started doing like weird fascist stuff?
I'm trying not to.
Yeah, okay. So Hitalia Nazi cosplay. I would erase that.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Nazi salutes and Holocaust museums. Yeah, so
oh God.
Yeah, outside of yep, that happened.
Don't do this to me.
Hitalia fascist cosplay and Voltron are the things that I'd erase.
What are our favorite Semas and Ukis?
Yuki-eri.
Yuki-eri, Shuichi Shindo. Shuichi is my Uki king. He's perfect.
My favorite Uke is Yashiro from Twittering Birds Never Fly.
I think there are more, but I am hosting my gravitation panel tomorrow, so I am in gravitation brain rot. But also, again, let me come back to bottom queen Porsche, because we need more bottoms like Porsche. Like, he's perfect. Don't talk.
But yeah, I think favorite UK has to be Yashiro from Twittering Birds Never Fly. Favorite Seme is probably still Yuki-eri. My question for you is your opinion on Foreign Affair. I've not heard of it. It sounds interesting.
Foreign Affair. Wait, I think I know. Wait, let me Google it real quick because I think I know.
I love how old we are. It's like, let me Google that.
No, but Foreign Affair magazine. I don't think that's that's not what we're looking for here. Oh, is it the Ayano Yamane manga? Because I don't think I've read that actually.
Do you ever read or write Dead Dove Do Not Eat?
Yes,
Girl.
Kitty, you need to watch Kin Porch. If you want to watch it with me, hit me up. Like, I'm not even kidding.
I am the
Amanda.
biggest consumer of Dead Dove Do Not Eat.
That is Amanda's diet.
That is my
That is-
exclusive diet is Dead Dove Do Not Eat.
I am watching OnlyFriends. Yes, affectionately calling it OnlyFans in my head. I'm watching it with my girlfriend and a friend, and we haven't been able to see episode 3, and I'm fucking dying on the inside. Oh my god, who's my favorite? I mean, First and Kaotung. I'm so soft for First and Kaotung, and I'm like, I just want Kao to play a role where he doesn't have to cry all the time. Like, is that too much to ask for? Like, why is he so sad?
But yeah, Carola, you're not the biggest Dead Dove fan, or you
I mean-
used to be, but you're not anymore.
I don't know. I don't think, I mean, compared to you, I haven't read anything. I think I've read some. I think that I might like it better now than I did when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I think
it's
I
much
was
better.
I was
written
easily
now.
squicked when I was younger. Like, I didn't understand, like, why would you want to read this?
Yeah, now
But
we're
now-
both monsters.
Now I like to suffer. So maybe I should dip my toes back
Oh,
in.
that's interesting. If you could make any ship more popular, what would you choose?
Any ship more popular.
Anything with Jiran from My Hero Academia, because I love that sketchy old man. Skeptic
Um,
and Jiran, that is sketchy people doing sketchy things.
I feel like, I mean, people ship Miritama, right? I'm not alone on this island. There's a lot of
People-
art.
He's a literal tentacle monster. People ship
Oh,
Miritama. It's
you-
10-10 and a tentacle monster. People ship Miritama.
You know, I feel like people aren't. I know that he's like the shyest anxiety boy, but I don't think that people are taking advantage of Tamaki's tentacles enough.
They
I
take
think that
advantage.
we-
I don't know what
I
part of the
think that
internet
we
you're
should-
on. I don't know what part of the
Can
internet you're on.
Someone direct me to it then. I am missing out on all the fun, clearly.
What is the most iconic fandom moment you witnessed?
Oh my god.
I've been through so much.
At the top of my head, I want to say Free. Because when they dropped
Yeah.
that, you know, when it was just the gay swimming anime and we were all just watching the trailer,
Mm-hmm.
and then bam, they had names and personalities, and we had a whole ass thing going before they'd even announced the series. And then turns
Yep.
out that casting, you know, Nagisa as the Shota sex demon was spot on, and it's like one of the best things. I love that. That was a moment I truly enjoyed in
I think-
fandom.
Iconic for me was the 10 people that were watching Hitsuri Jime My Hero instead of Yuri on Ice, because I was in that like 10 people group. And then honestly, Gravitation at its height.
I wish I mean, I'm pretty sure I watched Gravitation at its height. I just didn't have, you know, a community. So it was just literally me and my boyfriend at the time watching it together and just screaming.
And Gravitation was like amazing because it was like just straight enough that like straight boys could watch it and get into it, and then like use that as a means to get girls, because like they would dress up as like Yuki and Suichi
Oh my god.
and then be like, oh, girls like this, because like that was all my guy friends. Like it was just straight enough to where like, yeah, I can get into the music and whatever, and I can cosplay this guy, and then girls will hop on my dick.
I mean,
Girls will hop on my dick, and
There's-
it works.
there are so many things that are wrong with 80 Yuki, but god, I love him. I mean,
love
we
trash
did that.
fire.
I was Shuichi, boyfriend dressed up as Yuki. That was what we did. That was our first couple cosplay.
And I was Yuki for many, many years.
You still are.
I still am. Any other questions? We still have a couple of minutes.
Oh my god, I'm having so much fun.
I'm having a blast.
And there are probably so many things that I'm forgetting. Like, there are so many iconic fan moments.
Yeah,
But
I
I
mean,
just-
there was that time that I got con married.
Oh,
Yeah, so there was this guy, he was leaving one of my late night panels, and he like bumped into someone and almost fell, and I grabbed him and ended up holding him almost like princess style. And like you can see the girls behind us, just like their eyes are sparkling, there's fucking cherry blossoms. And he's like, thank you for helping me. And he like gives me a hug and runs off, and everyone didn't realize that I'm a former Tamaki.
oh, but we actually, I do see a question. I'm just gonna, at ToruCon, which is a con that I staff, we
Mhm.
actually have a concept called the Toru ship, which is a literal, like, we have a boat. It's a literal boat where we have cosplayers who are the priests who ship characters together, and there are wedding certificates and everything. It's amazing.
Can there be an SS Gaslight?
I maybe the SS Gaslight is the Yaoi Shelf boat.
What was your very first ship as a wee baby fan? I think my first gay ship was probably like Sasunaru.
My first ship that I was absolutely obsessed with was Jesse and James, Team Rocket, rocket ship still sailing. I actually gushed to someone about it this morning. My first ship was canon. They got married. I started out so well, and then everything went to hell after that.
I spent so many years like wanting to do like thinly veiled self-insert stuff. So I think So I think like, yeah, probably like Sasunaru was like one of my first gay ships.
Sasunaru was definitely the first one where I got really, where I was aware of it. Like, it's the first big one, and the one that I still
it was the one that
heart.
I was first like cognitive of.
But like, I realized after that I was like low-key shipping Kai and Rei from Beyblade, and I didn't even know it. But that might be the first
and I
one.
had that with Yukito and Toya in Card Captors, because it's a canon gay couple. So like I always knew, it's like, wait a minute, those guys aren't friends.
I feel like the Kurama mentioned in the chat is not the Kurama I'm thinking of. I think
no, Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah,
it is not the nine-tailed fox demon. It's a sexier fox.
What is your favorite ship, including the nine-tailed fox? Just asking. No.
Self-obsessed with Naruto. Is there an upcoming BL that you're looking forward to? Honestly, I've been really enjoying The Summer Hikaru Died.
Yeah, same. I just read volume 1 finally.
I really like The Summer Hikaru Died.
I mean, I am tentatively looking forward to the 10 count film. I'm a little iffy because of the animation in the promotion still, but I love 10 count so much. I want it to be good. I just need it. And also the Twilight after, what's the name of that series? Tasugata? I can't remember the name now, but the adaptation of that.
Yeah.
And also Vuju Bakery.
Our Dreams at Dusk. Have you ever been?
No, not Our Dreams at Dusk. It's a Twilight after something.
Anime musical fandoms. A little bit.
Yes.
In the older days, yes.
I watched a lot of the Prince of Tennis musicals without having watched Prince of Tennis. That was an experience. I do ship the golden pair. But the Naruto, like, I really love live action stage plays now. The Naruto one, the Naruto live spectacles, they're amazing. I saw the trailer for the next season, or like the next tour, earlier this week, and I cried. So
also, like, all of the recordings of like the Hitalia Japanese cast, because they all
Twilight out of focus,
so into it. The Japanese voice actors for Hitalia, that was iconic.
And the Bleach, like Burimyu, the Bleach musicals were so funny.
Bleach, I just remember so good.
The guy who played Gin in the first one, and the way he kept going bye bye, like, that lives rent free in my head forever. That was so good. I mean, the songs, the singing wasn't necessarily the best thing I've ever heard, but I was enjoying that.
All right, we'll close on this. Which fandom in your experience was the most warm and friendly?
Warm and friendly. It's like warm flashbacks.
Warm. You know,
Amanda
what?
has never had warm and fuzzy feelings. Those were the days. Oh,
honestly, like, as far as like accepting Dobby Hawks, because we all just like watching that bird get skewered.
I mean, fair. Warmest and most friendly and warm. I feel like there is one. I just can't. It's been so long. No, I don't know. But also, I want, like, obviously, I think there's something more recent that I'm just not remembering right now. But I want to say that, you know, back in the day when I was living on LiveJournal and I had my friends list and my communities, like my Sasunaru community was such a good place.
You know what? No, we're lying. The obvious answer is Matt and Mello.
Matt and Mello, yeah. Because no one ever fought about Matt and Mello. It was just,
the answer was in front of us the entire time. It's Matt and Mello. That's the best.
The answer is always Matt and Mello.
The answer is always Matt and Mello. I think that's pretty much our time.
Oh, wow.
We did it.
We did it.
Worried about filling this time.
You did. Oh, thank you so much for paneling for us, and that was an amazing podcast. Learned so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you guys for
Round of
having
applause
us.
for Yaoi Shelf.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for listening to us, even though I know it's really early in some time zones.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed this kind of content, we'd love to have you
We'd
listen
love
to
to
the
have you.
show.
Come hit
Next
us
month
up.
we're talking, next month we're talking about Antique Bakery.
Ooh. We're very excited about that. That's one of Amanda's favorites. I'm super hyped to finally get to like be a part of it.
Yep. So thank you
And
for having us.
and again, come listen to me rave about gravitation tomorrow.
Yes.
I'll be doing that.
Ah.